911, what's your emergency? 911, what's your emergency?
Be advised, Car 4 has control of the pursuit. Proceed with caution.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Behind the Crime Door. I'm Kristen. How is everybody doing tonight? Hey, Tech Def. It's good to see you, my dear. Hey, Fusa. Hey, Mystery Christy. Welcome. Hey, John. How are you doing this evening? Hey, Pigeon Mac. Good to see you. Hi, Charmaine Swart. Good to have you with us. I hope everybody is doing well. Hey, Deb. How are you? So good to see you. Just give me a second, guys. I want to check something on YouTube. Hold on one second, okay? Okay. All is well. So, yeah, I have Steve tonight with True Crime Web, and he's going to be joining me in a little bit. And I'm going to update us on some cases before he gets here. I always like to give him a little bit of time to catch his breath, have a cup of coffee, and kind of, get his bearings before he just has to jump right on, since he's been live himself. So, hey, Salty Beach, how are you? Hey, Danger Dave, welcome. Welcome, welcome, my dear. So good to have you guys with me tonight. How many people have heard today the news that um, we lost David Crosby today? Did you guys hear that? From he was 81 years old, but he was a true musician, a very, very talented man. Um, he had a lot of issues growing up, or getting, I should say, growing up in the music biz. Um, but man, what a great loss. Makes me feel old every time we keep losing these guys. Yeah, it just does. It just makes me feel old. I guess I am old. What am I saying? So, yeah, really, really, for sure, you guys. So, just want to get my articles here in order. I was really, really busy today doing a lot of different things with my channel, but I was trying to get some updates on some of the stuff that we've been covering as well. And I know that this is going to be something that Tech Death is going to want to know about, because this case is very, very this is a case that is near and dear to his heart. And so I want to definitely do the update, but I don't know if you guys heard, but there's going to be new billboards that's going to raise awareness in the case of missing UMass student Mara Murray. For those of you that aren't aware, Mara has been missing for nearly 20 years. She was a University of Massachusetts Amherst student, and she was a native of Hanson, Massachusetts. She disappeared in February of 2004. She had crashed her car in Haverhill, New Hampshire. She was 21 years old when she went missing. The billboards are going to be located in Methuen along the Interstate 93 corridor, near Stoneham and Woburn. And the FBI issued a nationwide alert on her case about a year ago. In July, investigators also conducted a brief search in northern New Hampshire, 4 miles from where Murray crashed. She left UMass telling professors there was a death in the family, but that wasn't true. And she headed north, crashing her car in Haverhill, New Hampshire, and then disappeared before the police arrived. She has never been heard from or seen since. And it's just a heartbreaking case. Her sister has spent nearly 20 years trying to locate her, and it's just heartbreaking. So hopefully the new billboards will help to bring some awareness to her case, and also maybe shake loose some memories of somebody who saw something or knows something from her about her disappearance. Hey, This'll Do Nicely. Good to see you. Hi, Verbal Judo. Welcome. Glad to have you here. So there was another update that came in that I wanted to let everybody know. Hey, Daisy. Good to see you. Hi, SD. Yeah, there is a lot of backstory to her case, most definitely. I would love to see something happen in this case, though, really, truly. So there was a baby Jane Doe that was identified this week. And I wanted to go over a little bit about her case, you guys, because I think anytime someone is identified that has been unable to be identified, I think it's important that we talk about it. The little girl's was named Amore. A little girl named Amore Wiggins is Opelika's baby Jane Doe, according to police. Amore means love and affection, a symbolic revelation in a decade-old case where investigators stayed determined to discover who she was, what happened to her, and deliver justice. And the police in Opelika, Alabama, asked that we take a moment to say her name out loud, Amore Wiggins. Opelika police confirmed the arrest of Amore's biological father, 50-year-old Lamar Vickerstaff, and his wife, 53-year-old Ruth Vickerstaff, by the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office in Florida. Opelika police confirm Lamar Vickerstaff serves with the United States Navy. The couple was arrested on Tuesday, January 17th, and is being held on a fugitive warrant of extradition. Investigators confirm the couple is expected to face charges related to Amore's death in Opelika, Alabama. The details and exact charges they face will be released at a press conference, including the extradition procedures. In October of 2022, Jane Doe's father was identified as 50-year-old Lamar Vickerstaff Jr. Mr. Vickerstaff was born and raised in Opelika before enlisting in the U.S. Navy during his lengthy Navy career. He resided in Norfolk, Virginia, Honolulu, Hawaii, and Jacksonville, Florida. In December of 2022, the Opelika detectives traveled to the naval station Mayport in Jacksonville, Florida, where Mr. Vickerstaff is currently stationed, to notify him of his daughter's death. During the meeting, Mr. Vickerstaff did not provide investigators with any information on the identity of Jane Doe. Detectives then met with Mr. Vickerstaff's wife, Ruth Vickerstaff, and Mrs. Vickerstaff, who has been married to Lamar since May of 2006, advised detectives she did not know his daughter or who may be the mother of Jane Doe. In December of 2022, detectives met with 37-year-old Sherry Wiggins, who confirmed she was the biological mother of Jane Doe. Miss Wiggins is a native of Norfolk, Virginia, and stated she gave birth to a baby girl named Amore Jovia Wiggins in January of 2006. Miss Wiggins provided documentation showing that Lamar and Ruth Vickerstaff obtained legal and physical custody of her daughter in 2009, and at which time her visitation with Amore was suspended. Ms. Wiggins also provided documents indicating that she had continuously paid child support to Lamar since 2009. Detectives reached out to the school board and pediatric clinics in several states where Lamar and Ruth had lived and determined that Amore was never ever enrolled in school, nor was she reported as a missing person. With this information, Opelika detectives met with the Lee County District Attorney's Office to determine charges related to the death of Amore Wiggins. Detectives say that on January 17th of 2023, Lamar and Ruth Vickerstaff were arrested, and Lamar was charged with felony murder, and Ruth was arrested for failure to report a missing child. They are currently being held at the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office pending extradition to Lee County, Alabama. WRBL is told recent advancements in familial DNA helped investigators identify Amore. Opelika police partnered with Othram Incorporated and used a technique called forensic-grade genome sequencing to build a DNA profile from the forensic evidence. And Othram developed this technique and has applied it to many cases. This little girl suffered unspeakable abuse before she was murdered, and justice was delayed because we didn't know who she was. It meant the world to us that we were able to assist law enforcement in restoring her name and seeking justice for her, said Kristen Middleman, Chief Developmental Officer of Othram. Police say once they were able to locate Amore's mother, she was vital in their search for answers in this case. Police say the mother had been trying to reconnect with Amore for several years after Vickerstaff gained custody. And police say her mother is not from Alabama and continued making regular support payments to Vickerstaff, not knowing this little girl was Opelika's unidentified baby Jane Doe. 4,009 days ago, the child's skull and other remains were unearthed near a mobile home off Hearst Street. On a cold Saturday, January 28, 2012, investigators arrived on the scene and Opelika's baby Jane Doe case was born. From that day forward, investigators began an exhaustive quest. Baby Jane Doe quickly became Opelika's daughter and a top priority for police. It is a case that sticks with you, and what we want more than anything is to put a name with that face. She was badly abused and lived a tough life, and there is nothing fair about what she had to go through at all. We just hope we can give her a small amount of justice if we can just find out her name. When the remains were recovered, forensic testing determined them to be those of a young Black girl. A long-sleeved pink shirt with heart buttons and ruffles was found near her body, along with her hair. Forensics revealed the child's left eye was scarred and blind. Police believe she was severely abused and neglected. Shortly after her body was found, the police released a clay facial reconstruction of what she may have looked like before she was killed. The reconstruction prompted members of the Greater Peace Community Church in Opelika to come forward, claiming they had seen the child before but didn't know her name or her family. Police say they sifted through Sunday school photos taken during the summer of 2011 and came across some that resembled the little girl found in the woods. The photos were released to the public, but no new information was generated. Wednesday, the mobile home and woods where the remains of baby Jane Doe were located were once again surrounded by yellow crime tape. Opelika police confirmed they were serving a search warrant at the property along with the Federal Bureau of Investigation regarding the baby Jane Doe case. And police confirmed Vickerstaff has friends and family who lived in the area. Agents were then seen standing on the mobile home's front porch and handling what appeared to be bags of evidence. The investigation recently led detectives to outside Alabama and other states. Baby Jane Doe may have lived. Families in Norfolk and Chesapeake, Virginia, and Northampton, North Carolina, are asked to look at reconstruction images and pictures of a little girl at Greater Peace Church in Opelika, taken in 2011. The girl in the photo is believed to be Jane Doe when she was alive. Investigators say this case remains ongoing as they continue to learn more about Amore and her time with her father and his wife. If you have any information that may help investigators, please contact the Opelika Police Department at 334-705-5260 or the Secret Witness Hotline at 334-745-8665. Tips can be submitted through the Opelika Police mobile app, and you can remain anonymous. And this is a picture of Lamar and Ruth and baby Jane Doe. And I will put this up on my screen. Hold on one second. Sorry. Steve is here. I see him now. He is back here. Hopefully he has his coffee and he is all ready to join me. Just give me a sec here. So this is a picture of her parents, her father and her stepmother. And this was a picture of her. And like I said the other night to you guys, when we were talking about these cases, it truly is horrific because every day it's another one. It's another child that doesn't have a chance. That is just, and it's just beyond me. Really, truly. Hello, sir.
Hello, how are you tonight?
I am so good, and it is so good to see you.
Oh,
How
it's an
are you?
honor. Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. How's your day been?
Doing pretty good. Mrs. Steve's getting ready to have some hand surgery next week, and so which leaves me in total control of the Google machine, which I'm sure I'll be able to shut down the whole web. But
If you need any help, you let me know.
appreciate that.
I'd be more than happy to help you any way I can. And please send her our love. We hope everything goes well and she can recover quickly and be better for whatever they're doing to her. Hopefully they'll fix her up nicely.
Hopefully.
So I thought tonight that we would discuss, I can't even talk, discuss the search warrant affidavit that was released on Bryan Kohberger.
Absolutely.
I thought that was some interesting information there. And I thought that because of it being some of the evidence and stuff they collected, you would be the perfect person to have talk about it because of your wealth of information and knowledge of crime scenes and evidence collection.
Well, I've looked at it, and it was surprising with how little they obtained from the residents of in Washington. But it's also not very surprising with that if you have an offender that might be alerted that he's being looked at as a offender, that and you give him a window of opportunity to distance himself between any of the trace evidence or weapons or clothing. That's it's going to be his first steps just as soon as he realizes that law enforcement's looking at him, or will be soon, such as we had with the this case, because just as soon as the offender, if it is Bryan Kohberger, saw that they were doing that neighborhood canvas of getting all the video surveillance, he would have known that he probably picked the wrong time of night to commit that crime, low traffic volume, that his vehicle will stand out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering what your thoughts were, and if you could explain maybe why that the car wasn't included in the search warrant.
First, it was seized in another state along with an arrest warrant. And now, will they have a search warrant, and have they already searched the vehicle? Would almost be 100%. Yes, they've already searched it. That's been executed. Where it was executed, I don't know, and by what. Was it by some type of CSI team from the federals, or did they ship it back to Idaho to the state lab there, or was it, I don't know which CSI team would have been granted the authority to do that and how that would have occurred, because I've never been involved with one that was brought back across state lines. But I think I had seen originally where they said they were going to ship it back to Idaho. And if that's the case, then of course the state crime lab would more than likely be the CSI team involved with that.
Do you think
that search warrant?
Do you think we'll eventually get that search warrant as well then, and what they find there?
Oh, absolutely. And I can't wait for it.
Yeah, I'm really anxious to get what's in the car. I just really am. I think that there's some things that I wanted to say about what they found. And one of the things I thought of, because I was reading some of these items and I'm like, that they posted, in the warrant that they found. And I was kind of like, wow, why would they have this? And why would there be stains on it? And what's this? Do you think he used those mattress covers to cover the seats of the car?
Oh, that would be ideal if he did. But now if he didn't, and they are from his home, that would be a huge mistake for him to do, and he would realize that, especially with the type of training and the knowledge of law enforcement that he would have. But then again, he made a lot of mistakes. But my best guess is that that is from some type of injury that he had at some point, and it may be totally unrelated to what happened at 11/22. I hope not, but it could be. And if those blood stains are only his, if they are blood stains, then of course it means nothing. They're within his home, at his residence, and he can bleed on his bedding, pillows as much as he wants, and it has nothing to do with the other.
Right.
But there is a possibility that if he had an injury, that injury could have occurred somewhere else, such as 11/22. And if that did, then we'll have blood evidence, hopefully within that area, that contain his DNA profile.
Right. And I-43 Pammy, thank you so much for your donation. I'm not sure why it wouldn't let you do super stickers. But yeah, thank you so much for your donation and your support. He did go to Walmart and they have a receipt, I believe, for the things that he bought from Walmart. So it is interesting to me. You know, they've got a Dickies tag, and we know that brand is of clothing is sold at Walmart. I think they also have something from a clothing store, Marshall's maybe.
Yes, it is, or at least
yeah.
that's what it says in the return.
Right, and so that's obvious to me that would be more than likely clothing that maybe he purchased for that specific reason to wear for that night. Who knows? But I'm sure they're thinking that. But I would wonder why those items would be something they would pull out and say, oh yeah, this is really relevant, unless that's what they're looking for, right?
Yeah. I don't know what was listed on the receipt. I know here it says that the sheets and items were bought, and I don't know what is on that itemized list. Law enforcement will know, and of course they'll both go back and look at the security tapes, because Walmart has some pretty good security systems, and for shoplifters, they've always had great. There's no telling how many shoplifters I've transported from Walmart over the years. So they've always had high-tech security systems, and even more so now with the technologies they're going through. So if he did buy those articles then, if he used them for any type of things, such as covering his car seats, if that is the case, then of course that would be his undoing.
Oh yeah, I was thinking of it automatically, because I was like, well, why would he purchase something? Why would that purchase be, why would it be so much of an interest? And I'm like, well, what would you use those for? And he would use them. He could use them for a number of things, but I was thinking covering the seats, but also putting them down in his apartment for him to get undressed. And, if he was really bloody or
do we
whatever.
know that that's what's on the receipts?
Pardon?
Do we know that what's on the receipts?
Yeah, hold on a second. Just let me real quick here, because I have the affidavit thing in front of me. I just need to go.
It says receipt, but I didn't see where it said that the receipt said that those were the items bought.
Yep. Oh, wow. This thing is so long. It's so.
Yeah, so it's the last page of the return.
So
it's page 48, I think, or 49.
Yeah, I'm heading there. It just takes a minute.
It's huge. Oh yes, it's huge.
Oh, it's huge. I've never seen something so large. I was like, wow. And when I heard how big it was, I was like, wow.
Yeah, I know it said from Marshall's, but it did. I didn't say an item on the list.
Says, Um, yeah, it doesn't tell you. It says 1 Walmart receipt with 1 Dickies tag
Mhm,
and 2 Marshall receipts.
mhm.
And then it has 2 top and bottom of mattress cover packaged separately, both labeled C, multiple stains, 1 tested.
Mhm.
So I'm thinking 2 top and bottom of a mattress cover would be top sheets and bottom sheets.
Well, I think it says mattress protector, doesn't it?
It says mattress cover. It says 2 top and bottom of
Okay.
mattress
Um,
cover
Yeah, the
packaged
mattress cover here
separately.
that we refer to as more of the protector is that final that's under the fitted sheet. But that you may be absolutely correct. Um, and it could be that it is the fitted sheet they're talking about, or it could
Yep.
be the mattress protector
I think
cover.
it's both. I think there's 2 top sheets and then 2 bottom sheets of the mattress, and I think he's just saying that it's a cover, and so I don't know why they wouldn't have called them sheets, but packaged separately.
Yeah, I
Um,
have no idea. And like I said, I don't know. We'll know it in discovery or when it's brought out in court because I worked a homicide one time where there was a bullet fired in the bed, and it through the top sheet, the fitted sheet, and both layers of the mattress protective sheet. It
uh-huh.
went through all those materials. And also not only but also the blood stain did too. And so you could match them up perfectly. And because I'm very familiar with and all the homicides, they're bedrooms are one of the areas that such crimes are committed.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Hey, True Crime Maria, good to see you. Fusa, thank you so much for your gifting of the memberships. That is so appreciated. Thank you so very much, you guys.
Very nice of you. Thank you.
Yeah, it's very nice of you and kind. I really appreciate it. Um, yeah, Ashley, you're right. We weren't told what items are listed on the receipt.
Yeah.
Now there is a glove issue because they did issue that or say that they retrieved a glove, but the glove that they retrieved from his apartment is from what I understand, isn't it a black like rubber glove or like a
Yeah,
hospital glove?
they list it as nitrite. I don't know if it's just a misspelling of nitrile or nitrile. It depends on what part of the country you're from. Because I looked it up to make sure. I even went to SoundCloud for the pronunciation to make sure, and they listed both nitrile and nitrile as pronunciation of. But it's spelled with an L on the end. But on the return, they had nitrite. Which there may be a brand out there, although Mrs. Steve looked for it earlier and she couldn't find nitrite gloves. She could find the nitrile gloves, so which are just typically nursing gloves. And I have a box of them around here somewhere, but they're blue. I don't have the black ones. But you can see the crime scene investigators, some of them, both at 1122 and even at his residence, had the black ones
Right.
that they were wearing.
So if he and Deb says that the nitrile gloves are sold at Walmart.
Okay.
So if that's the case, then that's something also that he could have purchased at at the Walmart that would have been
Yes,
on
at
the
some
wall.
point. Now we don't know if it's on that receipt or
We
not.
don't know, right?
No.
But
No.
it's interesting for sure to know that they are sold there.
Oh, absolutely.
And what I think is interesting, and what I don't know if this jumped out at you, but it certainly jumped out at me. Here we are again with just one glove. We got a glove that they found, supposedly, they're saying, at the crime scene outdoors. Have you heard about that?
Yes, actually, Chris on the mob crew did a thing on that, and he went and found some video pre-snow
Mm-hmm.
and pre-discovery, because that was another YouTuber, I can't think of his name, that was there, that was an investigator for another retired investigator that has a YouTube channel. He found the glove and notified law enforcement, and they recovered it. But Chris had went back predated to that in the exact area and didn't see the glove, which doesn't mean, I don't know what it means, but there are some video of discovery of the glove not being there. Does it mean it's left by crime scene? I would more than likely think some of the CSI, because on a crime scene, you'll go through a box of gloves. It wasn't uncommon for, we have a 5-man team that would go in and process, and a box of 100 gloves, you can go through a box of 100 gloves with 5 people in an hour, hour and a half, because every time you touch something,
you have to replace your gloves.
Yes, and I'd layer them up as many as 4 deep, so that I could just peel off, and then when I got to my bottom layer, I would come back on with additional layers. And if you're like at the 1122, I think they recovered 113 pieces of evidence. So you're looking at least 113 glove changes, and by multiple people. So there was hundreds of gloves. Could one have been misplaced, or could it be from the suspect? I don't know, but I know that Chris looked at it and said no,
Deb said that was from Chris McDonough, is the one who the true crime person from YouTube that put that out there, I guess.
Yeah, he's one that found it, and then Chris from Mob Crew is one that said that he found previous where it wasn't there. So
where it wasn't there. So yeah, I mean, it has been put out there. I think People Magazine wrote about the fact that Bryan was wearing gloves when he was grocery shopping. He was, he was wearing gloves all the time after the murders. When opening doors and all kinds of stuff like that. And I mean, he could, there could be a number of reasons why he would be doing that. But obviously, with him being charged with this crime, people are thinking he doesn't want to leave his fingerprints. Yeah. But with the whole COVID issues and stuff like that, he could very well be someone who was very diligent and not wanting to touch surfaces.
Absolutely.
I mean, so that's also, we have to keep that in mind, that just because he may have been, wearing gloves when he grocery shopped doesn't necessarily mean anything to me. I mean, I guess it does in the totality of everything else, but, oh yeah. And I do think it's very possible that he's OCD. It's very possible that he is, but who knows? Let's see. Hey, Frank Meister, how are you doing? It's good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. So what of the items interested you the most on this list? There's 12 items, and then there's an A, B, and C. There's the nitro type glove or whatever, the Walmart receipt with the Dickies tag, 2 Marshall's receipts, a dust container from Abyssal Power Force vacuum, 8 possible hair strands, a Fire TV stick with cord and plug. I think we can talk about that a little bit because that's kind of interesting to me. A possible animal hair strand, which I find interesting if that turns out to be Murphy's. 1 possible hair, another possible hair, another possible hair. And these must be different hairs from the 8, right?
Yes. I guess the number is different too. So yes.
Right. So I'm thinking that these have got to be completely different hairs. And then a computer tower. And then they took a collection of a dark red spot. I'm assuming from the floor.
That is drove me crazy also. I've never heard that descriptor.
Like, why did they not? They collected it. It hasn't been tested, but they collected it. I'm like, well, where was it? Why didn't you tell us where that was? But, and then
they know where it's at.
Okay. They just didn't want us to know where it was.
No, they know exactly where it was taken from, because the documentation of, as you do that search warrant, anytime you recover something, you'll know off the grids and coordinates and measurements exactly, so that if a jury ever wants to see where that dark red spot was, that they would be able to go back in there and place it exactly. They'll be able to rebuild that crime scene. Even when you recover evidence, you have to be able to go back and build it right back
the way it was.
Absolutely.
So they took 2 cuttings from an uncased pillow of reddish and brown stain, and the larger stain was tested. Again, that could be blood. and the pillow didn't have any cases on it. So, you know, that I found interesting, but I was like, you know, there could be a number of reasons why there's blood on a pillow as well. But given the fact that he had just, you know, been supposedly back from this crime scene, we're thinking, you know, bloody. Again, if he got blood on his pillowcase, it could have seeped through into his pillow.
I would be
Those-
surprised if he left the crime scene and went straight home to clean up.
Oh, I don't
I've
think he
got,
did. I don't think, I mean,
I don't either.
I think we should talk about that tonight, because I still think that that long way home that he took when he drove south out of Moscow towards the Snake River is very, very telling. I think that that's a great place to ditch evidence, and I think throwing the knife into the Snake River would have been a really smart thing for him to do. So far away, you know.
Yeah. And there's a 10 or 15 minute loss of time from the time if a vehicle that was seen leaving the area that's very similar to his, and then it's 28 minutes later before the phone's turned on.
Yeah.
And I think the phone's is going to play a great, it's going to be a great part of this puzzle if he didn't clean that phone properly, if he is the offender, for the fact that's one of the first things that he would have touched immediately after the crime's being committed. First, of course, getting in the car, steering wheel, getting away from, separating oneself from the crime scene as quickly as possible, in case law enforcement is on the way. And then a lot of criminals will go to a staging area that they've pre-set up or have looked at prior to that. As soon as the crime's committed, I'll go there, do a quick cleanup, change clothing, because there's nothing worse than going to your home immediately after a crime wearing the same clothes, and a bolo comes out and your neighbor's staring at you looking at the bolo. And so they'll change clothing and stuff to, once again, try to mislead anyone from identifying them from the crime.
Sure. Fusa says, wow, how do you move your hands with multiple layers of those things, Steve? Must have been hot.
You
However,
learn, like I said, I would go up to 4 or 5 layers, and that's the maximum amount of number of layers I could do and actually move my hands. Because after a certain point, and the bottom layer or the bottom 2 layers, I always kept them as sterile as possible. That I never handled anything with those layers. That way you could, like I said, once you layer it up, you were able to handle at least 2 or 3 items as you pulled them off, and then you go back over and layer up again. And it just quickened the process because it is extremely hot. There's nothing comfortable about, and everyone knows when you wear rubber gloves that they sweat, and it's absolutely miserable.
Oh, yeah.
Plus, if you wear some of the moon suits,
yeah, exactly.
the Tyvek, it's in Georgia humidity, it gets brutal.
Yeah, it's got to be. However, if Fusa was a beat cop dealing with fentanyl, I think I'd wear at least 10 layers.
Yes, I never had to deal with that. Thank goodness.
I know. I just don't know how they deal with that nowadays. I know they carry, obviously they carry the is it Narcan with them to give, but I mean, still it would be scary for me to be thinking about that, you know, that they have to deal with that today. Mist wants to know if anyone thinks that he may have had a burner phone. I'm not sure. I don't really think so, because it seems like he didn't really care. He had his own phone and he was still going to the house with his own phone. And Kaylee's dad said, Steve said that he was tying into their Wi-Fi. They have evidence of that. So this guy didn't seem to care about a lot of things that he should have been caring about. And it makes me wonder, and the more this keeps coming out and the more we talk about it, was he really that not great of a student to know what he was doing and how he was messing up, or was he messing up on purpose?
Well, them, a lot of that may be the only problem about is the time frame. They said most of these happen late at night, early morning hours, which is not the times that the parties were occurring at. Most of those were earlier. And so that could be something that they will be able to build a case on. They may have many more. They said at least 12. They could have some that they don't even want to look at for the fact that it could be easily explained that, yes, that was times that there was party hours or normal activities. Now, did they differentiate? I have no idea, but it is something that, that they know and we don't.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. What do you think about the all the different hairs? And I mean, you understand obviously why they took the dust container from the Bissell Power Force. They're checking what he vacuumed up, not what they did. They're probably looking for any vacuums that he had in the house and
Show
to
and
get
tell.
anything, right? There you go.
There you go. Only here we get to show and tell. I have a Bissell Power Force, but I would have took the whole vacuum. I don't know why they just took the dust collector.
Why they just took the dust collector. Yeah.
When he got home, he wouldn't have a vacuum to do any cleaning. He probably wouldn't have had a bed either to sleep in, because if there were blood stains, I'm taking everything, and pillows. I wouldn't have done cuttings. I would have took the whole pillows.
Yeah. I was just going to mention this. SSS says the medical community has confirmed that tangential exposure to fentanyl cannot cause you to overdose. The worst that can happen is the person has a panic attack. It's psychosomatic and not an OD. And I don't believe that, because I just watched a video on I believe it was on Nightline, that showed a female police officer who actually got fentanyl in her face when they were making a traffic stop, and she OD'd right there on the scene. They had to give her Narcan, and it was pretty doggone scary. But yeah, she almost died. So had they not done what they were able to do for her, she'd have died there on the scene. So I'm not sure I believe all of that, but anyway, I definitely think that fentanyl is extremely dangerous, and it's far more dangerous than we imagine, and it's out there and it's everywhere.
I've never dealt with it, so I've never had to experience it. So
yeah, good luck for that.
Yes.
Yeah, she had several doses of Narcan. That is correct. Because it was a lot. She got a lot of dust up her nose, in her face, and yeah. So let's see what, I mean, we understand why they took the computer tower. I mean, I think it might be interesting to see what he was generating on that computer, if he was doing searches or if he was doing his Instagram texting. We know that he was talking or sending messages on Instagram to at least one or two of the victims. That's come out.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure they're looking for that.
Yeah, which one piece of the hair or the blood could possibly be the key one piece? It could be either one of them, any one of them, but that has a hair that doesn't have the root bulb is one thing and may not be enough. But any of those hairs that have that root bulb that has that nuclear could be the one that turns this case on its head.
Right. And
also the blood, any of the blood.
In the blood, because I don't know if you've been watching or hearing about the case of Brian Walsh, who I've covered a little bit on my channel. He was just arrested for killing his wife. He up there in Massachusetts. She was she's been missing since the 1st of January They had 3 small children, 3 small boys. And they found blood and a weapon in the basement of their home. And anyway, it led them to a whole bunch of other things. They found him disposing of big black garbage bags in many different dumpsters around the area, all these kinds of things. And she's still not been found. So they assumed that he killed her. But one of the things they found was one of those, the Tyvek suits you were talking about that you wear. He had bought one of those at a Home Depot with like $450 worth of cleaning supplies the day or two after the 1st of January when she went missing. And they said that her blood was found inside the cuffs, like inside of the suit. So they know for a fact that, because of that's damning. Whether it be on the outside, that's one thing. But the fact that it had gone down into the cuffs.
I don't care where it's at. It ain't looking good for him.
Yeah, it isn't right. Exactly. So you're right. If that blood, any of that blood evidence or whatever that they took, if they find any of the victims or a combination of victims or whatever, he's sunk. I mean, how do you explain that away as a defense attorney that would even be there?
Yeah. Now some of the suits and stuff, but once you supporting evidence that there is some type of contamination from a missing person of a blood profile DNA on a cleaning suit that you bought, yes, it leads you to one conclusion. But now just buying those, if you ever looked at what I buy, and if you looked at everything, but I do it for the testing of my channel and stuff, that I've got I've got everything you can imagine that you would think, oh my goodness, he's serial.
What are you doing with all those supplies?
I know it. But when I work the crime scenes and everything up there, because some of the chemicals I work with, you have to be extremely careful around.
Yeah. I just, I'm baffled, and I'm sure you are too, about this guy, because, he's a PhD candidate. He's in school for getting his doctorate. PhD candidates are usually very intelligent people. And so, you've got all this intelligence, and I go back to, well, he could be very book smart and just not have any common sense. And maybe, or maybe he was just so scattered that when he went to do this crime, that he wasn't as organized as he thought he was. I don't know.
Well, he hasn't been convicted yet, so
no, I agreed. True.
Yeah,
if
he may be absolutely. We'll be able to discuss how smart he is in about a year and a half.
Probably. You're right. Yeah, he is presumed innocent until he's proven guilty in a court of law. But if he is guilty, I don't understand. There's part of me that still thinks that he may have wanted to be caught.
Oh no.
And I don't know why I think that. It's just
it's all about them. If you want to get caught, go out and sit on the front porch and sit there. But the profile of psychopaths and the narcissistic traits is that it's all about how they protect themselves through others. And so I don't believe that, and I could be dead wrong. It's just my opinion, but I'm for the fact that I do not think he ever wanted to be caught. Because it's easy to leave a note that I'm the one responsible for this.
Oh yeah, for sure. You're right there. And I just, like I said, I mean, I just run all these kinds of things through my head at times, but I really didn't, I really thought, and still do think, that he was thinking he was committing the perfect murder.
Oh, I do. I absolutely do.
Yeah, I think that's what his mindset was, and that he was going to use all of what he learned from doing this in a dissertation. I think he was. I mean, that to me makes more sense. And yeah, what a psychopath we're dealing with here. Somebody with no remorse, no feelings towards human beings, just looking at them as a source for information gathering, you know?
And we look at the case and how law enforcement approached it. And I think, and some of the things that law enforcement did, of course, alerted him that we're coming for you. And I think the moment that he saw that they were requesting the videos, security, that at that point he probably went and did some searches of those areas and seeing what streets he drove on.
Yeah. I don't think it was WSU that did the search on his apartment. Was it? It wasn't that. It wasn't the university police that did the search, was it?
If you look on the on that last page on the top corner, it says that stuff is being stored at the WSU
University Police Department.
Yes.
So does that leave us to believe that that's who did the search?
They're the local authority, and they probably would have went through them.
Because I would think, man, they're not used to having to be in searching for, I would think, murders. So I don't know. I would be.
It's just the jurisdictional thing is what they try to do.
Okay.
Doesn't mean that they're the ones that did it, but that the other CSIs could have been the state agency said, okay.
Right. I would think they would have been, because I don't really think they have CSIs at a university level. I wouldn't think.
Oh, I don't know. It's possible. I'm not so much current on what some of the universities do, but some of the officers may be taking those courses there. I don't even know what courses are offered there. That'd be interesting, because we do have some local colleges here that offer a lot of the CSI training, and Washington State may have that.
Yeah, I guess it depends on what kind of a university you are, and if you're really high. And I mean, obviously they must have a really good criminal justice department, because they've got a PhD program. So I would think.
Yeah, I just learned last week there's another university in Georgia that started a body farm. And
oh, wow.
I found it extremely interesting. I didn't know about it, but I was talking to some officers the other day, and they said, yes, there was a college here in Georgia that has started one up. And I thought, man, I've got to go and see if I can't
get in there.
Some access. Yeah,
I was just going to say, I would bet that would be extremely interesting for you, for sure. So, well, with that being said, like I said, I'm glad that they did release this, and that they decided that it was okay to release, because I know they talked about not releasing it for a couple of months. But what do you think they were looking for? Does anybody have any idea with the Fire TV stick? Are you able to store information on those, or
on my Roku stick? When I go in there, and I don't know how like I said, I can barely operate this here Google machine, but when I go in there and I go into like YouTube, and I type in my searches, it pulls up a history of my recent searches. So that has to be stored somewhere. And it's not on my TV, I do not believe. So it may be that it has the ability to store some data of your searches and things somewhere. Or it may be on the TV. I have no idea. But it was interesting. I'm sure there's people out there that have a far greater understanding than me, because when I go in there and I'm looking for some of my older or my channels, because sometimes I watch you and others on my big TV and just sit there and don't have the chat.
I watch you on my big TV, just so you know. I love your late night ones.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the morning watch.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, he's a night owl.
Oh yes, because after those shows, sometimes I'll go have a cup of coffee before I go to sleep.
That is so cool. So what is what is your understanding at this point, um, with so we've got all the evidence collected from 11/22, right? We do we have we so we're assuming we're done collecting evidence from his apartment,
And that's
and
something,
they did evidence collecting at his home, his parents' home, correct? And they took the car. So we still have evidence to be told to us probably of those two locations.
yeah, you have 1122, you have his residence, you have his vehicle, you'll have also his parents' house. There'll be a search warrant. So there'd probably be a total of at least 4 search warrants. And the return at 1122, you see, that's something else that a lot of people, and I saw was asked the other day about, there was a time difference of law enforcement getting there and the investigators entering, that there was that they waited a certain time, and there would have been a search warrant even obtained for the 1122. Just because you have 4 homicides inside the residence doesn't mean that law enforcement can instantly just go in. They can go in and check for life and protect life, but they can't go in and start processing the scene without risking that the offender may have some privacy issues within that residence. So they still have to obtain a search warrant even for where the 4 homicides occurred,
Okay.
if they play it smart, which I assume they played it smart. I don't know that, but there would be a return on that evidence also.
Well, it sounds like there was a long time waiting because from what I understand, they got the call around noon about the body and, the unconscious person. The police show up, but the detectives didn't show up until like around 4 o'clock.
Yes, that would have been them obtaining the search warrants,
Right.
getting it signed, and saying, because like I said, there's nothing worse than going in there and collecting the evidence and then finding that there is a link and a expectation of privacy by the offender that you violated by, regardless of what went on in that residence, and did a search warrant and violated their rights of privacy. And I know it sounds crazy, but that's the way the courts look at it. And so we have to observe the Constitution.
So, will you talk a little bit about the 10 to 15 minutes of missing time and where that comes in, where
Sure.
that time is at actually in the timeline, and what you think may have been going on there?
Like I said, we know that when he went en route from the affidavit of the arrest warrant by that was mentioned in Idaho, they mentioned that as he left his home in the early hours, that at a certain time he turned or deactivated his phone. And so we have a missing time frame from there all the way up until his vehicle is started, or a vehicle similar to his begins to be seen in the neighborhood. So you have a time lost there because it's really not that far. So what was he doing pre-crime? Was he going to an area and possibly staging, looking, observing, prepping that after the crime, this area is secure, everything's set up, I can instantly come here, clean up, and move on. And then after the crime, we know that the car is seen somewhere around 4:20 leaving the area, or a car similar to his. And it's seen somewhere around Blaine, Idaho, which is, I think, like a 10-minute, 12-minute ride from, if you type in 1122 King Road to Blaine on maps, one of your map apps, it gives you a timeline. It's only like a 10 or 12-minute drive. But from 4:20, and his phone's not reactivated at Blaine until 4:48. So that's 28 minutes. So you've got somewhere between around a 15 to 18-minute window that is unexplained. What was he doing during those 10 to 18 minutes or 15 minutes? Somewhere's in there. There's a lot of variables. How fast was he driving? How slow was he driving? So, and so it wouldn't be uncommon. Like I said, I've seen a lot of criminals. We called an armed robber one time for the fact that he had a safe ground of where, when he left his house, he would go to an area, change clothes, go commit robbery, after the robbery, he'd go back to his safe ground, change clothes, and before he went back home. And that way, his clothing would never match as he got into his residence what the lookouts or was on the scanners. And so a lot of criminals may do that. And so not saying he did, but it is possible.
Sure. Grandma Watches says, Steve and Kristen, this has been a great live. You two are so respectful always, and it is refreshing to watch you.
Thank you. That's very kind of you.
It's very kind of you, but I couldn't respect this man more than I already do. I respect him. And so I think you guys most of you know that. So he's just wonderful.
That's very nice of you also.
Well, it's the truth. You're just so down to earth, Steve. Come on. You're just like so easy to talk to, and you just got a great personality. So
my mama wouldn't let me have been any other way. She'd slap me.
Yep, that was me. Boy, I'd have got the peach switch on my behind. I'm here to tell you. If I was anything but. Let's see. So the next thing I wanted to ask you, so since this has come out, we've got you're really anxious, as you said, for the evidence to come out about the car. Being the fact that we think we know this guy is, probably, pretty put together. Do you think he had this car cleaned? Is that
yes.
possible? And even though he did that, it's still not going to be good enough, right?
Yeah, no. I mean, if he had 4 encounters of such a violent encounters that occurred for these 4 homicides, and you do have, as law enforcement put in that search warrant, blood spatter, cast off, that it would be on his clothing. And if you have defensive injuries, and defensive injuries in a knife fight are most common are to your hands and your fingers. They're horrible to look at, they're horrible to see, but they're easily recognized for what they are because people will reach out and try to defend themselves during the knife attacks. And of course, those are injuries that allow a large amount of blood transfer. And if you make contact with an individual, chest area, face, head, back of the head, if you're grabbing hair or trying to, and that's something I always was absolutely amazed by, the different manner that women fight versus men. Men are closed fists, women will grab you by the hair and they will latch on and they will pull a lot of hair out. Hopefully that's the case and they have that at the crime scene. But regardless, even if they didn't, they would have possibly around the head area. And then you have the headrest and the vehicle that they would be a transfer. And also seat belt, if the cast off or if they embraced him sometime during the struggle, if they had any type of hand injuries from the defensive wounds of where they may have been injured by the knife, I expect that there would be a large amount of blood transfer on him.
Yeah, because I was just listening to a Nightline did a 2-hour special on this case, and I watched it the night before last, I think. But anyway, in that special, they were talking about the crime scene, and they said that we know that it was a horrific scene and there was a lot of blood, but they said that there was a lot of cast off.
Mm-hmm. And that can come from both victims and the offender. As every time that if the offender strikes and he reestablishes and any type of injury that soaks or contaminates that knife, and as he accelerates, the blood pools and then it's cast off at the stop, or even as you're arcing it out and coming back. You can absolutely count the number of strokes. And it's absolutely amazing, but it's part of the blood spatter analysis. And you always add one because the first stroke doesn't have anything, and the second stroke does, especially with blunt force. But knives can have on the first.
So, Do you think that it took a long time then to process this crime scene
Oh,
for that type of evidence?
and well, not only that, but I think they didn't even find the shoe print until day 2, which is surprising to me. But because normally you work yourself from out to in, but there's a lot of technology advances now that may explain that. They've got walking boards now that, rather than back in our day, we didn't have anything that we had to work our way in and collect all the evidence prior to getting to the victims. But now they got the things that you can step on and walk on so you don't contaminate the floor. Were those used in this case? I have no idea, but they exist out there. Some of the things that, just simple things like that would allow you to go back later and with expectations of being able to recover a footprint after a full day of CSI in their processing.
Because
we're extremely destructive. And I mean,
what is
you have to make choices.
So Steve, what is the normal process when you say you get a crime scene like this where you have multiple victims, multiple locations within a residence, you have all of this blood everywhere, and how do you begin? Where is your focal point when you first come in, and then how long does it take you before you can release the bodies? Do you have to do the whole crime scene?
My steps would have been this: is, of course, first thing whenever you're seen or there, you make sure that the outer perimeter is secured and everybody's out and away. And then as you approach, you have to look for that. Okay, we have victims in the house. And at what point outside the house, where is the parking, whatever the areas are parking that would allow an offender to either park if he drove or go to his residence? And your eyes is the first thing of processing the scene. You have to look for those blood trails at the furthest point from the residence, because if you find a blood drop 100 feet away from the residence, it's from the offender. It's not. It's highly unlikely it's from one of the victims. It's possible, but it's highly unlikely. And then you start to see if there's a blood trail. And because if you have a steady set of blood drops of an individual, and I'm going to have some tests coming out soon about doing that, of what a steady blood supply injury would look like as you walk, because you can tell from the blood drops direction and all that. But but the closer you get to the victim, those blood drops are hard to distinguish between the offender injury and the victim's injury, because you can have an injury to the offender that would be a cast off. You could have an injury to one of the victim's hands that's creating cast off also. And so you wouldn't, it's hard to tell sometimes.
Do you find it, would you find it highly surprising if the perpetrator had no wounds on his hands at all, or any on arms or anything like that, because of the nature of these crimes as they've been described?
Yeah, I mean, often just on one encounter, an offender would cut himself, let alone with 4. So yes, I would find it, is it possible that he didn't injure himself? Absolutely. That's the worst case scenario. Best case is that he did injure himself, and they identified something leading him from there. And hopefully they'll find the clothing, the shoes, anything. If they find that pair of shoes that left that
Footprint
that was a blood presumptive test pattern, if they find that shoe and the blood from the victim's on the outside of it, and it has a DNA profile of Kohberger from the inside of the shoe, done deal.
Right. Those are the vans, right? Those are the ones that
I have a set of them up there, so
that match the vans.
yes. Well, I own a Bissell vacuum cleaner.
You own a
and I,
Bissell vacuum, and you also have a pair of Vans.
yes, and they're not mine. They're Baby Steve's vans, but
Yeah.
she sent them to me. But they're not my shoe size, so I'm gonna have to get Baby Steve down here to help me with some of my testing controls.
There you go. That's cool. The other thing that I was thinking too was, with this evidence collection that they did at both locations, it's very important how well it was collected, and that's going to determine how well the testing goes on it, correct? It needs to be properly collected and all of that. One of the things that I heard in the Nightline 2-hour special that I watched that I wasn't aware of prior is the Friday night before the murders, there was upwards of 150 people in that house at a party.
I saw I saw a video, and I don't know the time frame of when it was there, but I did see one. That video, you saw a few people outside, but I don't know if you can get 150 people in there.
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, now I don't know if they meant all at one time or 150 people that came and went like an open house kind of party kind of thing, where they weren't all there at the same time. And, they came, had a few drinks left, more came, had a few drinks left, whatever. But there was this party, and that's what they said, 150 of them. And I'm just like, that place is so small, even though it looks big because of the many floors. When you look at those bedrooms, they're super tiny. I agreed with you. I was like, man, dead of winter, 150 people, that's a lot. But I guess my point was, how is that going to impede what they collected at 11/22 when you have that much different DNA that's possibly in that house?
Well, some of the other DNA,
or fingerprints,
if
or
you have
shoe prints.
DNA such as on a glass that has nothing, no blood stains, it's in the sink, and it is possibly left from a party, then of course that's easily explained away. It's going to be those items that have those blood stain transfers or that occurred later that you can absolutely prove that this occurred after a certain time point of an attack, and that's the evidence that they will go with. All the other, if they found some type of primary versus secondary DNA transfer to a light switch where someone just flipped it on and there's no blood or anything in that, then of course anyone could claim that, yes, I was there during a party and I turned on a light switch. But if it's a bloody mixture, then that's different. And so they have to evaluate it and make sure it's occurred at a certain time frame. It's not easy working on homicides or crime scenes.
I can't even imagine. There was an article that was put out this week on Fox News that's talked about the fact that they will definitely be able to identify this knife without ever having the knife.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one of the questions I had with that, and I'm sure that that's true, and I'm sure you understand why.
Yes.
But what happens if, I guess my feel, and I know that I don't want to be really gruesome here, but it's possible that something broke off that blade when this was occurring as well, correct?
It could have been that, or like I said, whenever they're doing the autopsies and things, they do measurements. They know what the wound channel looks like. It's going to be exactly like what the sheath is. That, you don't want to be able to gruesome, but that's what happens.
Right.
They'll be able to go in and look at that and look at that injury and tell you exactly the width and length of the knife, and draw it out. That's simply what it is. And because if a knife is of a certain length, it can only be of injury of that depth. And so they'll be able to almost, like I said, match that sheath to a knife that could have gone in it that would have inflicted those injuries.
Interesting. Miss Alyssa says, "You rock, Mr. Steve," and so do you, Kristen. That's so nice of you, Melissa. Um, um, let's see. What was it? He said, a lot, that's what he was talking about. So a lot of times he said they do a full body x-ray of the deceased at the time of autopsy, and sometimes they can find metal fragments left
Oh, yeah.
behind by a knife.
You can, if it broke or if it hit bone, yeah, there can be some transfers, of course, but not always, but sometimes, yes.
So there's a possibility, obviously, that they have much more evidence than we even can even begin to fathom. Because I'm sure a lot of people don't think about those things. One of the other things that I saw this week that I thought was interesting, that there was a former employee of the Mad Greek, which is the restaurant where Maddie and Xana worked in Moscow, that Bryan came in at least twice, that this former employee remembered to get vegan pizza. So I think it's I've often felt that could have been where the encounter may have been made with them in the very beginning.
Yeah, the victimologies, that's exactly what that will show from the victim standpoint of where they were, who their friends were, what their movements were. And then they will look at the offenders and look at his financial statements, cameras, and all of that, that if he ever paid with credit card in certain areas, they'll be able to link that and draw some conclusions of when the victims and the offenders' paths crossed. Maybe not the first time or second time, but at some point they'll start be able to draw those conclusions.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're saying that there's no evidence that's come out that that Maddie or Xana ever had interacted with him, but it's a possibility because they were servers there. But yeah, I think it's interesting that, like you said, how they can take the digital footprint or what the data from his credit, financial data, whatever, and use that to compare with times and where he was and were they there at the same time, and kind of paint a picture.
Oh yeah, and in the business, did they have employee of the month photos with their names? I mean,
Right.
how many businesses have you been in that yes, this is employee of the month, or what was a social media presence of either of any of the victims, and where they said they worked, and what type of cyber stalking could have occurred. There's so many different ways that if he's looking for, and not only him, but there are offenders out there right now that are doing that exact thing on the internet. They're cruising and looking for future victims.
Have you read anything or seen any of the articles or posts about Bryan's writings that he did in his youth, where he talks about the fact that he had feelings of being depressed and disassociation, the fact that he was able to do whatever he wanted with little to no remorse,
Yeah, that's
no
all.
emotion.
Actually, I'm going to be talking to Dr. Susan about that, I think Saturday. If everything works out and we can get together, that's going to be Saturday. We're going to be discussing a lot of that because my psychological profiling was more of wasn't all about the youth and what built them up to a certain stage. It's about the characteristics and mannerisms and how they cross paths and what they would do during the criminal phase of it. Some of the stuff of how these psychopaths' lives are influenced by parenting, relationships early on, that's for people at higher pay grade than I.
Yeah, for sure. Mine as well. I do find it fascinating with my psychology background that I do have, though. I do find it fascinating to get into the psyche a little bit to try to understand
Oh yeah,
what.
I wish I understood them. I absolutely do, Rob.
I don't know that we ever truly can actually say that, but I I guess I can kind of see the writing on the wall as to how this person is describing himself in his writings, and then kind of where you can see the whole low self-esteem, and how his I feel his, I don't know, I want to say hatred because I don't know that we've had that proven yet, but definitely an uncomfortableness and a dislike for females. He feels more powerful than them, and very much more important, because even the way he was addressing his female students when they were interviewing the students, and how he talked down to females in his class, I think really says a lot about him.
And don't think that the defense won't be bringing, if the outcome is as towards the guilty phase and the sentencing part of it, the defense will try to get all that information in.
Right. And
those early years.
True Crime Maria says the current belief is that psychopathy likely has more genetic roots, while sociopathy, antisocial personality disorders, is probably more learned or environmental. And I think that that's very, very true. I would agree with that
I've heard it
assessment.
said many times. I don't know what all the studies it's based on, but I've heard that said many times.
Oh yeah. And I think it goes back to, everybody is so shocked. I remember in this special that I watched when they were interviewing a couple of the town people not associated with the university, but that have lived in Moscow, grown up there, and they were talking about this, and the fact that this community has always felt as if it was just this safe haven, little bedroom type community, that had this great thing at the center of it, which was the college, which is the University of Idaho, and the students coming in, and creating this larger community, because again, it adds to their numbers. And it was always just felt like this was just a safe place for them to be. People didn't lock their doors. They didn't necessarily have the same fears that, say, someone living in Chicago or New York City or one of the bigger, cities would feel. And now you have this crime happen, and you have these 4 students murdered, and it turns out to be one of your own, so to speak. It turns out to be somebody who is a professional, who is, in the community, living amongst you, teaching your students, all of these things. It is extremely frightening. And I think that that's one reason why this case has exploded internationally, because this case has gone viral, so to speak. All over the world, they're talking about it, and people want to know why.
Yeah.
Why did he do this?
Yeah. Well, and not all psychopaths. There's a lot of there's far more psychopaths than most people realize.
Oh,
and
yes.
not all of them are violent. It's only
Not
a
all of
small
them are
percentage.
murderers.
No. If they were, we would be in a fix.
We'd be in big trouble, because we would not have enough people to protect us.
Yeah. It seems like we're going more and more towards that direction every day with all the stuff that we see, and that's sad.
Yeah, for sure. Fusa says, that's really strange, because it seems to me like his mom and sisters are very strong, accomplished women. Seems like he'd have more respect for them. Yeah, I mean, he may very well have respect for his mom and his sisters, but I don't know. I know that there's rumor out there that he mistreated his dad. I don't know if that's true, but
yeah, there's a lot of traits that that if he is of a certain type, then he may appear that he may respect, but he has none. Especially if you see that we have 3 women that he had such total disregard for of what he did, and so.
Oh yeah, for sure. And like I said, I just don't think he sees people as people. Not in the way we do. You know what I mean? It's.
Oh, I've talked with people like that, and I've had interviews with them and talked to them, and that, I mean, you committed that to a total stranger, and they looked me in the eye and said, "Oh no, we talked for a couple of hours." Like, oh, okay, that made it okay to them to commit the homicide after speaking to someone. Now, they didn't say how they were able to maintain a conversation, although I don't think it was consensual, the conversation. I think they were being held, the victim was. Yeah, from the first interaction that they knocked on his door and he committed the homicide 2 hours later. And I said, "You did that just because they knocked on your door?" And he said, "Oh, no, we talked for at least 2 hours." And I thought, oh, okay, you're special.
Yeah.
And there are some very extremely dangerous individuals out there.
Oh yeah, for sure. And we're just going to have to wait and see how it plays out with what they decide, because I know they're going to have a psychologist or a psychiatrist probably evaluate him, probably more than one. Will be.
Uh-oh. I'm here. I don't know if she is. So I may be carrying on the show.
I'm back. I do it
That's
at least. I do it at
I may
least
be
once a
carrying on the
while.
show here.
It's just my mouse. So you're not the only one that has trouble with the Google machine. I have trouble with the Apple machine. So, yes, John, it was bad. Mousy is right. It's terrible. Sorry.
Don't leave me in control. Don't leave me in control.
Oh, you would do just fine. I'm sorry, you guys. That's so crazy that happens to me almost once every show. Oh, it's crazy. But yeah, the mouse is funny. They call it a magic mouse, and if you move your finger just too much like this, it'll just throw you right out of the live. It's crazy. But it is makes you laugh, I guess. But so what I was saying was they're going to have he'll be examined and looked at, and they'll determine a lot about him, I think, at that juncture. But when you were thinking, or when you were talking earlier, when in the beginning of the show, when you were talking about where or what you think he may have done, he didn't go home right away. What do you think he did? Do you think he went to a place that he may have staked out ahead of time, got cleaned
I believe
up?
so, that during that, especially that missing timeline, and then after that, and once the phone is reactivated, and he's traveling, was everything already taken care of? Had it already been destroyed or thrown away or buried? Because it is risky. Anytime an offender has other items in his vehicle, the longer you stay with those items, the more likely you are to be caught. And if an officer pulls up that has a K9 unit or something, or you have an accident, you have to explain certain things. And especially at those hours. And
Yeah. I was even thinking, if he did use those sheets to cover the seats while he's doing whatever, to protect his car, at least he's thinking he's protecting it. We all know that if it soaks through or gets on anything on that car, it's going to be there, and that luminol will find it. So he can think what he wants. But anyway,
yeah.
my thought process was, you want to get rid of all of that stuff as quickly as possible. And so it was odd to me that they found some of that stuff at the house, I guess. I don't know. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see what that all comes from and what that turns out to be. But I agree with you. And I think that there's a reason why he didn't drive straight back to Pullman. There's a reason he didn't do that.
Absolutely. And like I said, I've seen it before with criminals, and it's part of their thought process that I've committed a perfect crime.
Exactly. And then I think it was bold of him to come back in the morning. And I think he came back, in my mind, I know a lot of people are thinking or surmising that he came back to get the sheath because he realized that he left it. But I think he came back because he was watching and listening and was waiting for it to be announced by the TV or the news or wherever that the crime had been, uncovered, and that there was nothing. It was like dead silence, and he couldn't figure out why.
Yeah.
So he went back to see what was going on.
And his phone history and his driving history of waking up at that hour and traveling, is that the first time he ever did that? And they'll know. And if, what are the, how often do you wake up and drive next to a homicide at random in the early morning hours?
Yeah.
So they're going to know if he did or not.
Oh yeah, for sure. Hey, Chris, welcome. Thanks for coming. Steve just turned his camera off.
I was moving across and it.
I'm just laughing because did you see what they put in chat when I did it?
Oh
They
yeah,
were
you've been
talking about,
abducted.
the Spock Mort connection here. They've got Scotty, too much power, Nanu.
Yeah, you got, yeah, you were abducted there.
I know. Beam me up once an episode.
Yeah.
Jeez Louise. Well, it's true though. Yeah, Deb, I think you're right. I think that could very well be that he went there to see if he dropped the sheath and the glove. But I definitely think that it was very surprising to him that somebody had not found them or realized that the crime had happened yet. So, because if he was casing that house, Steve, for weeks and months before, which they say he was, because they have him in the area 12 times. So he would know the comings and goings. He would know who was in the house, when they were in the house. I would think he would know all of those things.
Oh, yes. I mean, you're absolutely correct. And if he, as the law enforcement officer said that in his training, people plan certain things, and they check upon those plans. That if you've gone out and done something, and you're expecting certain things to occur from that, human nature is you're curious of why that's not occurring. What's happening, and when will it be on the news, and what is his fantasy?
Right.
Because it was his fantasy to commit such a crime and then see just all the law enforcement and the response and drive by and see that. Was that part of his fantasy? We just don't know.
Right, exactly. I think it's interesting that his attorney from Pennsylvania has come out and he's been doing a lot of talking. And he said that he told him he was innocent of this and that he was anxious to be exonerated. And I'm wondering if that is why he brought up, or his dad brought up, the shooting at Washington State University that happened that day that they were driving in Indiana. That was the supposed security guard, correct?
Yeah.
And he's stating I've heard, and we don't know this, but he was stating that this person was somebody that he interacted with in some capacity or whatever. And this is the person who committed these crimes.
If there is any relationship with anyone, just as they do a victimology on the victims, they'll do a profile on the offender, and they're going to know everything about him also.
Mm-hmm.
Who did he text? Who did he phone? What phone calls were made? And not only from his end, but they'll look at it from the other end also. And can these two individuals communicate to come up with a conspiracy or not? If they never had any type of communications or never met each other, or were in separate areas, or one of them has a definite alibi for the whole time of not just that night, but the other 12 times that he was at the address, they'll look at all that for, that if you're going to commit and act with another individual, you're going to go to that scene together at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to look at it. You're going to discuss it. It happens with bank robberies. It happens with whoever's going to rob the stop and rob on the corner. It happens that they get together and they scope it out together. And it takes some communications. If there's no links that they can ever prove between those two people, then of course it didn't occur.
Right. Exactly. Well, I definitely think they have a lot of circumstantial evidence already that they've showed us that he's going to have to do a lot of explaining for, and his attorney, somebody is going to have to do some explaining for. It'll be real interesting to see. I want to commend law enforcement, though, for the job that they did in Idaho, because I cannot imagine a crime this horrific and big as you have four, young people murdered so viciously. And in my opinion, they caught him very, very quickly. And I know a lot of things must have fallen into place for them, like the WSU security guard who decided upon himself to start looking for the white Elantras. He did that once the bolo was put out. Had he not done that, we may not be where we are right now, because that car was paramount to him being caught. And I just think they did a fantastic job. And when I look at this Idaho case, and then I look at the Delphi case, which you know how I feel about Delphi, it's a completely different ballgame in how it was handled. So I'm not saying that Delphi doesn't have its own issues that may have led to whatever, but it's just a completely different thing. You've got a knifing or stabbing, whatever, of two girls in the, outdoors, and almost 6 years to solve. And here we have 4 people, and, they did it in a quick turnaround. And again, it was multi-jurisdictional. And you yourself as a police officer know that anytime you have task force involved where you've got multi-jurisdictions working together, you don't know for sure what you're going to get.
No. Some people they just don't play nice with others, but sometimes they do.
Exactly. We know that just from being here on YouTube.
Oh, yes.
People don't play nice with one another. So,
absolutely remarkable. I just don't understand it.
I just don't either. Melissa wants to know, Steve, have you taught self-defense classes?
Yes.
How to protect ourselves with intruders, etc., what to do?
Oh, yes. I guess at some point I need to get into some of those things, but yes. And that
would be a great live for you to do, to just give pointers. I don't want to scream out here, but to us women, because, women seem to be the targets for the most part of these horrific crimes. And I think it would be great for you to talk about some of the things that women need to be on the lookout for.
Well, we'll do that, and we'll get together, and you can host it, and I'll be glad to go through.
Awesome. That would be awesome. I would love it.
Absolutely.
I think it would be really good, and a great thing and a tool for for everyone to see and hear. What do you think, or do you think, Chris wants to know if you think this person may take a plea because the evidence is so damning, or do you think he'll want to see it through the
It
court?
depends on what law enforcement has behind the curtain that we currently do not know. And if they have that, if he injured himself and they have that DNA profile, or if one of the victims were able to grab some hair or any of his bushy, I hope absolutely his bushy eyebrows are what is his downfall. I hope that the victims have a root with a bushy eyebrow. That would be absolutely so ironic. But
It would be ironic, wouldn't it?
yes.
Wow.
but or he injured himself and there will be some type of transfer blood DNA profile they've identified. There's a lot of different ways, especially one encounter, possible two, maybe, but when you have 4 encounters, the likelihood of him injuring himself or cross-contamination is huge. And I believe they do have something.
SSS says, I don't think he'll plea. I think he will think he's going to get away with it. And also he wants people to see what he did. He's proud of himself.
That's very possible. Like I said,
yep.
It depends if he injures himself. And when he went to that car, that's the first thing he touched within seconds.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're not talking about 5 minutes, 10 minutes. When he went out that back door and he got in that vehicle, we're talking less than 2 minutes of him being in that vehicle. And the ability or the likelihood of some type of DNA transfer to the back of that steering wheel, to that gear shift, to the thumb release for putting it in gear, to his radio dial, to turn his lights on. There's so many different surfaces, the door latches, door handles, that he may have not been able to clean. That, or if he didn't have something covering those seats, that once he sat down or once he put the back of his head to that headrest, that would create so many different possibilities of transfer. That seat belt, the clicker, if he clicked it in, there's so many possibilities of where they'd be able to find, and they'll process it. That car probably won't look anything like it did just a few weeks ago.
When they took it from him?
Yeah. It's probably not drivable at the moment.
I was just going to say, they probably took it apart, didn't they?
Yeah. They probably have the steering wheel. I'm serious.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Take the steering wheel out of it.
Lynn GMB wants to know, why is he not wearing handcuffs in court?
There's so many different technologies. We had, I was on several court security teams. I was the guy with the switch, with the shock belt. And there's a lot of different ways that you can suit one up. There's a lot of devices, from knee braces, knee locks, to shock belts. And even back when I was in it, now they're probably light years ahead. The courthouse is secured. It's not just what you see in the courtroom. There's layers upon layers. I don't see him being able to do anything with or without handcuffs.
Okay. Yeah, she said, if he knows how to kill, a pen is handy.
Oh yeah.
And that's true.
He won't like the results.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't think he would be happy with what would happen to him if he tried that right there in the courtroom.
No, I dealt with one that was he was a serial offender, and we was on court security, and it was a multi-step process getting him to the courthouse every day, and getting him back to the jail. And of course, on those high-profile, highly dangerous cases,
there is a difference, because if you look at the presence with Bryan coming to court versus the presence with Richard Allen coming to court, I mean, they swept the defense table before they seated Richard Allen
Mhm.
last week,
Mhm.
they've got a SWAT team around him
Mhm.
everywhere. I mean, you can just see them and they're
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah.
And, I mean, just because I guess we didn't see it with Bryan doesn't mean they're not there, but
Yeah. The same procedures are done. They bring in everything from bomb sniffing dogs to sweep the courthouse early. You just don't know, some teams may do it 2 hours before, and then they lock that room down, and no one has access. And everyone that comes into that uh, uh, atmosphere or that environment, they're already screened multiple times. And that by the time they get in the courtroom, there's not a threat.
hey, Charismatically, how are you, my dear? So good to see you. Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think that's just part of procedure to keep everyone safe. There's been too many instances where in courtrooms where
Oh yes.
people, whether it be the defendant or people in the gallery, trying to kill or
Oh yeah.
whatever.
Always will be. I mean,
Yeah.
there's always the outlier of where there's just a moment of carelessness on somebody's part that allows certain things to occur. That's terrible.
Yep. Well, right now they have I think it's 5 criminals that are on the loose in Missouri. Did you see that? They lost
I saw
5.
something about that.
I'm like, what's going on? We got 5 loose again.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, scary. Scary, scary. But anyway, well, my dear, I guess that's it for tonight. I really appreciate having you on.
Been an honor.
Great
Thank you for
show.
having me. Means a lot to me. I consider you a friend, and I look forward to
Oh,
sitting
I
down and
do.
having a cup of coffee with you eventually.
I can't wait. I just, like I said, I just respect you so much, and I love talking to you. You're a wealth of information, all the experience that you've had and that you can talk to us about and be able to interject that into these cases is something that I find so important and so needed. It helps to keep a lot of that crazy speculation under control. And just like you did tonight, you reeled me in, reminded me, he is not guilty, he is innocent. And we have to constantly be reminding ourselves that as we talk about the case and we talk about him. And
Yep.
I wanted to tell you guys, if you didn't know this, I wanted to say, I mean, I think I made a community post about it, but Kelsey and Caleb are expecting, and they will be parents of a new baby in August of this year. And I wanted to say congratulations to Kelsey and Caleb. We send from here at the Crime Door, we send them our love and hope that everything goes well for them through the rest of this pregnancy. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful gift.
It is. Absolutely.
So I was very, very happy to hear about that. So I wanted to share that tonight with everyone. But we'll keep watching this case, Steve. I think it's going to be really interesting. And I'm really anxious to catch up with you on Evansdale and see what's going on there. I know you're planning to come.
Yeah, snowstorm right now.
I know. I'm up here. I know.
And then next week it's supposed to be like 17 degrees or something.
Yeah, it's supposed to get
For
really
a high.
cold. Yeah, it's supposed to get really cold.
And,
So
I don't even know if my car will run in 17 degrees.
well, we don't want you coming up until we know for a fact that you won't get stranded along the road. So
Yeah.
It's going to warm up, though. I promise.
Oh, yes, it will. I've got a lot to do. I've got to get with Larry, and I've got to get up there and see Drew again and talk to him about some things that we're looking at. And
Good.
I'm looking forward to it. And I'm so far behind right now, getting in touch with some of the search teams that we got coming up this year. I'm already trying to get the logistics set out to be able to go out and do some searches and with K9s and other things, but it has to be done.
Right. Right. Well, I appreciate it, and I appreciate you. And give Mrs. Steve our love. Our thoughts are with her next week. I hope everything goes well for her.
Oh yeah, it's outpatient, but still,
It's surgery. I mean,
Yeah.
it's still surgery.
Yeah.
So, But anyway, you take care, and we will talk very soon.
All right. Thank you.
Much love.
Appreciate it. Everybody
Uh-huh.
stay safe out there.
Good night. Thanks, you guys, so much for hanging around with us tonight. I appreciate all of you, and anyone who's catching this live stream on the replay, thank you for being here. Thank you to my moderators who always do an amazing job for me. I appreciate each and every one of you. All of my members who support me in everything. Without you, I couldn't do what I do. And thank you to all my subscribers for being here. I really do appreciate you. And I will see you guys all on Saturday. Good night, everyone.